Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is May 1st, 2022, and you are now watching Real Talk with Ronnie. My name is Ronald Lynn, the host of the fastest growing political talk show in New Jersey. Here on Real Talk with Ronnie, we only engage in real talk, real news in real time. We are now broadcasting on Salem Radio via AM 970. So if you want to listen to our program on one of New York City's largest radio stations, please go to www.am970theanswer.com every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and click on the tab that says Listen Live on the top of the page during my show's broadcast time. In addition, the video component of our show is airing live on Facebook, Rumble, and Getter right now as well. Please follow me on Facebook, Rumble, and YouTube by searching for Real Talk with Ronnie. If you're on Getter, please search for my handle at Ronald Joseph Lynn. To learn more about our show, visit our show's website at www.realtalkronnie.com. If you want to come on our show or have a guest in mind, please let us know ASAP by emailing us at realtalkwithronnie@gmail.com. We've got a pretty packed schedule, so the sooner you reach out to us, the sooner we can get you onto our calendar. One last thing, please visit my campaign website at www.winwithlynn.us to learn more about me, my campaign, and how you can get involved. And of course, I would really appreciate any amount of donation you can muster up for my fight to save and restore Bergen County. Just click on the big donate button on the top of the page. Thank you very much. Wow, so very big news this week. Elon Musk is now the new owner of Twitter. After initially taking the poison pill in an attempt to prevent a takeover by Musk, the board of directors at Twitter eventually warmed up to the idea of a Musk buyout after he revealed that he had very quickly lined up the requisite financing needed to make this purchase possible. As such, it seems Elon Musk will buy Twitter for approximately $44 billion and thus be the savior of free speech. I will have more to say about this whole saga next week, but what I'm most interested about now is the future of Truth Social. So as you may know, Truth Social is President Trump's new social media platform whose sole purpose was to combat Twitter and provide a safe space for free speech after President Trump was banned permanently from Twitter. So what happens now? Surely President Trump will imminently get his voice back on Twitter. Now, the question is, does he join both? Does Truth Social close shop and merge with Twitter? You know, as a savvy businessman, as Elon Musk is, one can't help but wonder if he bought Twitter as a way to kill off Truth Social. In any case, that remains to be seen. What we do know is that Elon is, in fact, keeping an eye, a very close eye, on Truth Social. I believe he tweeted from his newly acquired company earlier this week that Truth Social is currently beating Twitter and TikTok in downloads on the Apple Store. Now, what I find extremely hilarious is the fact that now you got these liberals like Alyssa Milano and Deborah Messing. And by the way, Deborah Messing and I went to the same college. We went to Brandeis. So anyway, these two liberals, right, they are part of, many liberals now who are saying that now they're on a mission to leave Twitter. And guess what? They're going to join Getter. So get this. Now these liberals are going to join another social media app, which, by the way, was started by President Trump's former advisor, Jason Miller, and is very popular among the conservative movement as a way of getting back at Twitter. And by the way, as I stated earlier, you can find me on Getter through my handle at Ronald Joseph Lynn. But my point is this, a liberal's irrationality is truly quite astounding. Liberals hate Trump. We all know that. That's nothing new. But now they hate the fact that a guy like Elon Musk, who champions free speech, by the way, bought Twitter, which thereby potentially gives Trump back his voice on Twitter. So to combat this, these same liberals are now quitting Twitter and joining another social media app that was created by Trump's people and which is in many ways even more conservative than Twitter. So this truly is mind-blowing. On our incredible show tonight, we welcome Mr. Todd White, who is the founder of the American Blockchain Political Action Committee, or commonly known as the American Blockchain PAC. The American Blockchain PAC was launched on 11/11 of 2021, and it is, to my knowledge, the first political action committee in the United States with a singular focus on helping to pass legislation on the federal level that is favorable towards blockchain, cryptocurrency, and the digital assets ecosystem. According to the American Blockchain PAC, to date, the banking lobby in the United States has contributed nearly $500 million to continue advancing their own agenda at the cost of American innovation. The American Blockchain PAC, however, hopes to offset that by raising $300 million in their efforts to promote and support members of Congress who are crypto friendly. Prior to starting the American Blockchain PAC, Todd White worked in D.C. as a legislative staffer to Congressman John Conyers, started his own investment banking firm, and is also concurrently the managing partner of Rulon and White Governance Strategies. Along the way, Mr. White managed to squeeze in a master's degree in public policy from the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. All right, let's bring on Mr. Todd White.
Bitter. Maybe you taste different. Hold up, baby.
Welcome back to Real Talk with Ronnie. On our show today, we have a fantastic guest. His name is Mr. Todd White. Todd White is currently the founder of the American Blockchain PAC. Mr. White started his career in D.C. as a legislative staffer for Congressman John Conyers. After his time in D.C., he was an investment banker for his own firm. After he did that for a few years, Mr. White decided to go back to school. He went to the Harvard Kennedy School of Government, where he got his master's in public policy. And then after that, he decided, you know what, he wanted to go back to DC. So he went back to DC and started his own firm again, Rulon and White Governance Strategies. And so that's what he's doing now, concurrently also as the founder of American Blockchain PAC. So Todd, thank you for joining us today. We know you wear many hats and you're a very busy guy, but thank you for finding the time to come onto our show.
Ron, it's a pleasure to be with your viewers and listeners, and thank you for the eloquent introduction.
Thank you, Todd. So Todd, currently you are the founder of American Blockchain PAC. Before we go into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you started, and what guides you?
Oh, great questions. What guides me? My career started out back in northern Indiana. That's where I kind of hailed from. And that experience was an athlete. I ended up going to undergrad with regard to a football scholarship. I was a mathematics, quantitative economics major. I was an academic All-American and wanted to go into banking and couldn't find the right job immediately after graduating the first time, and ended up working for Chairman John Conyers. So I worked here in DC in judiciary during his tenure as chairman. And following that stint, I, as you outlined, went to start my own investment banking firm. It was a rough start, but got it going and ended up selling the assets to Sunlight. Then returned back to JFK, and here we are back in DC. And what we're really focusing on is defense and cryptocurrencies and blockchain and crypto being the buzzword and the majority of our firm and the clients that we represent. And what guides me is just trying to work within Washington, D.C. We know it's a bureaucracy, but we try to do it with integrity and try to do it in a non-polemic way that we can make an impact. And that's what guides me totally, to solve difficult issues or problems, work with many people, which isn't always easy, and try to each day get it done the right way. That's what really guides me.
Okay, great. Thank you, Todd. So you've had quite an extensive background, and now you're involved with cryptocurrency. So for all the listeners and viewers out there who might be kind of new to this area, right? Can you very quickly tell us in like layman's term, what exactly is cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and all of this new era stuff?
Yes, that's a great question. And I think what we are seeing it now in a multitude of different mediums, the word blockchain and cryptocurrency, namely Bitcoin. So let me begin with Bitcoin. Bitcoin was a technology that kind of gained notoriety with Satoshi Nakamoto, the inventor of Bitcoin. He solved something very unique to be able to send digital money in a very confidential way that could be done anywhere in the world that is not beholden to the centralized banks, which is very unique. And what Satoshi did, there were other cryptocurrencies during that window of time in 2006, 2007, they kind of failed. But what Satoshi was able to do, the inventor of Bitcoin, he was able to solve a double spending problem. And that was, so when you go into Starbucks and you use cryptocurrencies, what you're able to do is no one else, when you make that expenditure, no one else can, with the same digital coding, do it somewhere else at the same time. So again, what is cryptocurrencies? What it is simply is we have a very unique technology that is in electricity. We had Edison who created electricity. Now we have digital programming within electricity to be able to send monetary increments in a very protected way. Okay. And blockchain is kind of the railroad as a frictionless, immutable digital ledger system, which you can send things and there's no middleman to make sure that it's 100% because it's a system that is, I want to be very clear with your listeners, it's 100% faultless.
Okay.
So you have a digital currency and a distributed ledger system that's very accurate, and you can circumvent people that usually have to check to verify information. And this puts us in a new realm of being able to send money and do it in an instant, rather than if we wanted to send it across the country using the SWIFT system, which would take 3 or 4 days and much cost. We can now do it within seconds at no cost, by contrast.
Wow. So this technology, well, specifically Bitcoin, it was created around 2006?
Right around 2008.
Okay.
Satoshi drafted his white paper, correct.
Okay.
And that was the beginning of Bitcoin as we know it. Yes.
So Bitcoin, in layman's terms, is basically, it's some sort of digital currency, right? In which you cut out the middleman, and party A is able to send it directly to party B, right? Correct. Within an instant. And you mentioned that is faultless, right? So let me ask you, how are you, I mean, who is to say that it's faultless? Like, how are you sure that there's no fault?
Well, there is a code, and what this code does, this individual, I'm not a programmer.
Right.
Let me put my disclaimer out here. So there is a 56-digit code, and I hope I'm not off a few digits. And each code is individual to the sender and the receiver.
Okay.
So that which ensures that what is being sent from person A to person B, given that you're using the proper code address for that individual, and in return of your code, it should be very private. It's on the digital ledger system, being the blockchain system, if you wanted to look it up. but at the same time, it's a confidential transaction, no less.
All right. So it seems like Party A has a unique code that they send to Party B, which is also a unique code. And no other party on earth will have this code, right? So, I mean, on paper, it seems like a pretty straightforward concept, right? So why is it that it was only, created in 2006 and not, earlier?
Well, great question. There were many developers that actually tried to create digital money. There were 3 or 4, and it didn't materialize until the internet protocols got a little better in 2008, 2009. We were kind of in the vestiges of going from Web 1 to Web 2. That helped Satoshi's creation significantly. But then again, as I entered into the definition of what differentiates Bitcoin as digital money, was the double spending problem. We probably couldn't do it 5 years before, as we were able to do it during this window of time. Therefore, that's what kind of distinguishes the first internet. Just like when we first started in the 90s, we couldn't do what we needed to do, that we couldn't do in turn what we did yesterday or during the 90s to what we can do even today or during this window of time.
Okay.
Yes.
So basically the technology wasn't quite there yet, right?
Correct.
But we are at a point today in which this is doable. All right, great. So let's talk about the American Blockchain PAC, which is your brainchild, your baby, right?
That's right.
Why don't you tell us or talk to us a little bit about that? What is the aim of the American Blockchain PAC, and why did you create it?
Great question. Thank you for that great question again, Ron. What we did, or I envisioned, having started in the crypto space in 2014, I had the first crypto startup company. Not sure what we were doing at that time, but what I did know is I believed in the technology. I believed in cryptocurrencies. I believed in the evolution of cryptocurrencies. And during that window of time, Bitcoin had been out along with a couple other digital currencies during that window of time. And what ended up happening is Bitcoin ended up going into the Silk Road. The Silk Road was kind of a place, kind of like the dark web, and Bitcoin was used for nefarious purposes. And that's where it kind of got its negative connotation at the beginning.
Can I ask you what for what purposes was it used for?
Oh, it was used for potentially drugs or all kinds of things that people wanted to buy and sell in a derisive way because of its confidential nature of using it. Yes. Right. So when that appeared to get on the eyesights of making it to DC, or in other words, the CFTC, they were very concerned about cryptocurrencies. Congress was very concerned about cryptocurrencies. The negative connotation was clandestine, right? That was the way they deemed it. And they started putting agencies in place to try to uncover different types of wrongdoing and things of that nature. And they would capture at that time, hundreds of thousands and even millions of dollars of Bitcoin. The government would retain it. But what was more important is we saw the intrinsic value of Bitcoin, and we wanted to put a better face, and we wanted to educate, at that time, regulators on what Bitcoin was, because we had a reasonable, good understanding of it. So that's when I began going to the CFTC. And actually, Chris Giancarlo was the head of the CFTs at that time, his team, and I was more of an educator. And make a long story short, that didn't go over well. Meetings were tabled, but the final meeting that I got a little traction, got a little feedback, And then after that period of time, nothing really happened. And then there was a greater proliferation of different alternative currencies that were based on the framework of Bitcoin that began to come out. And ICOs were raised, which are verboten now by the SEC. And we started working with attorneys to get them through a process called Regulation A, Regulation D. And we did that for a little while, between 14 and 16. And then what we ended up doing is, I don't want to get ahead of your question, but what we sought to do is I became a regulatory speaker where conferences around the country and outside the United States began to come up. I'll stop there, but
Okay.
So it was a crooked road to where we are today.
Very interesting. And I have a question, and it might sound like a stupid one, but this is coming from a guy who knows very little about this whole cryptocurrency sphere. So you were saying how cryptocurrency came about in like 2006 and 2008, right? And when it first started, it was used for purposes that were not so great, right?
That's
it was used for maybe selling drugs and other bad things, right? So
Yes.
suppose I was a drug dealer, right? And I traded in cryptocurrency, right? Like I would sell you an ounce of smack for like 200, like Bitcoins, right? So once I have these Bitcoins back in 2008, what can I do with them? It's not like I could take it to like Walmart and buy like, ramen noodles or, like groceries. So what can someone back then do with these Bitcoins?
Well, there was a step before the step. Let's be honest. The first Bitcoin transaction was actually done at a Papa John's pizza.
Okay.
For what constituted to be, I think it was like 200 to 300 Bitcoin.
Okay.
Which today would be an enormous amount of money.
Right.
So that was the kind of the beta test. But what when that kind of caught the eyes of many, that's when the Silk Road adopted Bitcoin. And to your point, so you're right. It was used for nefarious purposes. And then what ended up happening from that, exchanges, the first exchange first came up. That was here in the United States, in fact, called Mt. Gox. And that's where Bitcoin was able to be traded by very few techie people and trying to, using it for not a whole lot, but
Right.
they would trade it and the price would go up and people saw the intrinsic value. It was unique, right? People wanted to, maybe have it. And those that got on early are very wealthy people today. So that's when, after that stage of that was 2010, 12, Mt. Gox crashed. It was hacked. It was it fell apart. Got the attention of the Department of Justice. Actually, Katie Hahn, who was running her own venture capital firm, and she was with Andreessen Horowitz before that time, was one of the lead DOJ officials that investigated it, in fact. And so that caught the eye of many, and the proliferation with the use of Bitcoin became more known.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. But back to that first transaction, right? At Papa John's, right? So
Yes.
how did that happen? Like, did someone from Bitcoin go to like Papa John's, like, corporate, and was like, hey, we have this new currency and we want to like, test it out and like buy a pizza. Papa John's was like, okay, sure, let's give it a try. Because if I were like a corporate entity, right, and some dude just came up to me and was like, hey, we have this new currency, it's a digital currency, and we want to test it out, I would probably say, okay, get lost, right? So why did Papa John go ahead with this?
A great question again, Ron. So I don't know all of the ensuing details,
Right.
but when Bitcoin was being created, there were hundreds of programmers involved, with Satoshi taking the lead in
Okay.
Bitcoin. So one of these programmers happened to have a relationship with Papa John's. And that's kind of how that connection occurred. Now, I'm sure there were sequences of events that ensued between that window of time, yet that's kind of how it came to be.
Okay. So what is the worth of one Bitcoin today?
I think it's ranging between $40,000 and $44,000 per coin.
Wow. So it's up there. So with one Bitcoin, you could pretty much buy a, pretty decent car.
Sure.
Okay. So
Many do.
Yeah. The American Blockchain PAC hopes to raise $300 million, right?
That's right.
Where are you right now with that goal?
Well, we're still well, let me begin here. We launched 11/11/2021.
Okay.
Number, right?
Right.
And that's almost a palindrome. Although we have been steady with contributions.
Okay.
We are about to come out with a report actually this week, but we're in the five figures at this stage, and we have some large funders, contributors that are coming on board. And there's a timing chain in here. I don't want to really give too much, but that's kind of where we are with contribution.
Okay.
And yes.
Now, are you getting your contributions? Like, are you trying to court like big, corporate entities or individuals, or are you gonna take money from any and all?
Well, that's a great question again.
Right.
So we focus on the crypto investor, Web3 developers, the Bitcoin miners, the Bitcoin node operators, the exchanges. We're kind of like where we position ourselves as the American Blockchain PAC. I want you to picture a flywheel. If your viewers can hang in there with me for a moment, along with yourself. And we're in the middle, we're the cog. And then there's all these rods, okay? And then at the end of each rod is, again, the Bitcoin ATMs, as I began to say, like a flywheel, the retail investor, and it goes on with every other type of investor. That could be the mutual fund, startups that are beginning to stake Bitcoin. Anyone in the ethos that has a vested interest in moving crypto forward from the standpoint of legislation, which is very, very important where we stand today, pursuant to the recent executive order that Biden signed.
Right. And I wanted to ask you about that. That's a great segue. So President Biden, he recently signed an executive order, I believe on March 9th, right? Or March 8th. Sorry, it was March 9th, right? And this executive order was basically ensuring the responsible development of, digital assets, right?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on this EO?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts. That's on this EO. First and foremost, for your viewers may not know, there early on was a big investor that is running FTX, which is one of the largest exchanges. It's worldwide, and it was created by Sam Bankman-Fried, who is a former MIT grad, got into crypto, began to trade, made billions of dollars. And during the candidate phase of then candidate Biden for president, Sam Bankman-Fried made a $5.2 million contribution to his campaign. And that's leading up to. So I'm not saying that that's typical political contributions, right? We'd love to have it, right? However, with regard to the EO, it is to create a study group in how digital currencies can be applied. There can be a even form of regulation that Congress can work within, a framework. and likewise the SEC and other adjacent agencies. That's what the EO is to do. Here's the challenge with the EO. The EO does not involve the private side of the industry. We don't want it to be top down, because then it's going to be an inefficient form of rulemaking. And those that are making the decision from the White House and with the agencies alike aren't classically trained in understanding the inherent or intrinsic value of cryptocurrencies. So these are your people making the policy decisions, which are going to slow things down. And that's why it has to be a private government cooperation partnership. And that's what the American Blockchain PAC is doing. And that's one of the reasons why I, in fact, created the American Blockchain PAC, for that to be able to happen.
Okay.
Yes.
One of the aims of the American Blockchain PAC is to try to support members of Congress, right, who are
Yes.
open to cryptocurrency, right?
This is correct.
So far, in your line of work, has Democratic congressmen or Republican, Congress people been more receptive to crypto, or has it been kind of both, or do you see one side kind of favoring it more?
Yes, I do. And let me walk you and your listeners back to at around 2021, when you're very familiar with the Investment Infrastructure Jobs Act, which was which we know it's a Democratic-led Congress. What was proposed under this 2,000-page Investment Infrastructure Jobs Act, what was kind of thrown in, I should say, was the taxation of cryptocurrencies. And if your listeners, those that are familiar with this maybe being in the airwaves, is that the taxation on cryptocurrencies to support the $3 trillion bill was $29 billion in taxation that would come from the cryptocurrency space. Now, that's huge. It stifles innovation, number one. And number two, it's one of the greatest taxation models since Caesar Augustus back in 29 BC, be honest with you.
That's a long time.
A long time ago, but for those that Luke 2 in the Bible, right? So he talked about it. So that's what happened. I'm going to tax the world. That's what Caesar Augustus said. So that wasn't really fitting well with the crypto industry at large. What happened is it began to galvanize, or attempted to galvanize, the crypto industry. All these different spaces that I kind of deemed with the cog on the wheel, the Bitcoin miners, the venture capitalists. I didn't include that one at that point. I was doing all the description. Everyone started writing letters to those too few members of Congress that were receptive to cryptocurrencies at that time, place, stage and time. And so consequently, it was answering your greater question. It was it kind of pigeonholed the Democratic side of things. But I want to be very clear. Cryptocurrencies, virtual currencies, and the innovation that it can bring to the unbanked, to the banked, it's turning out to be a political issue because of how we began with the Investment Infrastructure Jobs Act. But it shouldn't be a Democratic or Republican or a libertarian. It should be, everyone should be open to currencies. Let's just be clear.
Okay.
So the Republican leaning side has really picked up speed from the standpoint of candidates. I have really begun to adopt cryptocurrencies as a platform, and we're getting hundreds of calls to support. Within our database, within our website, we're putting on an educational database. So that's going to be very useful for candidates who want to, get certification on blockchain and crypto. That should be done in about a week or so, but want to throw that in.
Okay.
So there's been a very interesting set of events leading from the Investment Infrastructure Job Act to the EO. And what the other issue is there's too many camps of ideas and how to in the crypto space, and it's not all coming together. And those that are legislators who really don't understand crypto, who don't want to be transformative, they just don't want to move forward with digital currencies. They're unsure. What has happened is the crypto space, Ron, and to your listeners, have essentially there's kind of a stalemate, and we're not going forward as we should, which is why, again, I created the American Blockchain PAC.
Okay.
Create a platform for all.
So based on what you're saying, it seems like Republican legislators are more receptive towards cryptocurrency than the Democrats are, right?
I would say yes.
Okay.
More than not. Yes.
Okay. Because it seems like, from what you just mentioned, that the Democratic side would like to tax the hell out of cryptocurrency, right?
This is what happened on November 15th.
Right.
Correct.
And
then there's privacy issues.
Right. And as you mentioned, with all this taxation, it would stifle the innovation of the cryptocurrency space.
You're absolutely correct. So what we know all too well is the Taxation Act that was put in place during the time of Reagan, the 1986 Tax Act, which is I think it was it's under Section 605. Subsection C, subsection 1. Okay. Most people in this realm know that, right? That number, that rule, that broker section. And so it's an antiquated taxation model that we're trying to put a new technology on. Okay, it's an old bedrock technology. We can't do that. And so there's friction out of the gate.
Right.
And so it creates a multitude of quagmires in how to classify crypto. Is it an asset? It depends on the agency, right? They haven't deemed what it is, right? It's a property. That was one of the more eclectic questions going back to 2018. And we're kind of still in that mode of how to classify, or the tokens, or the different evolutions of digital currencies, NFTs. The industry continues to replicate, and our agencies and Congress haven't got to step one.
Okay. Treasury of the Secretary, Janet Yellen, she recently gave a speech at American University's Kogat School of Business Center for innovation about cryptocurrency, right? And about the innovation and policies that are associated with it. Do you have any takeaways from Secretary Yellen's speech?
Yes, I do. There were some hopeful things, which I think emanated from her citations, in that she has a sense of belief that what is to come out of the EO, the executive order, is that there should be a private and government participation from the standpoint of this work study group, which is what I have, well, not I, but the American Blockchain PAC, to correct myself, has been propagating. We did a very unique presentation at the National Press Club in January 28th, speaking about this very same point. So there too, we want to move forward with it. We've spoken to a few at the White House. I don't think they've come full circle on, moving forward on the EO, but trustfully they will come back to us and they'll essentially want to have a further, conversation about what our belief to move forward a private government cooperation.
Okay.
Yes.
If you had to name one member of Congress that has been most receptive to, digital currency and cryptocurrency, Bitcoin,
Yes.
who would it be?
Senator Loomis.
Okay, Senator
Yes.
Loomis from Wyoming. And why has she been such a big backer of crypto?
Yeah, she hails from a state that is very progressive. Now we know
Wyoming is a progressive
state of
state.
Wyoming is a very crypto friendly state.
Okay.
And they're very advanced in their view of cryptocurrencies. And we know with regard to the 10th Amendment, states' rights, they've moved far ahead of where we stand here in DC federally. It's kind of by analogy like cannabis, right? The states began to adopt it into legislators and being able to be used, but the feds have not really moved forward by analogy. So she has been a big supporter. There are other members of Congress that have sponsored good legislation. But what the impending issue is, currently the blockchain caucus is fairly small. Okay, so let's say on the Senate banking or on the committee on financial services, technology task force. There's only a few members in the House that are writing good legislation that would be helpful to the crypto space, but you can't get it out of committee because you don't have enough votes to do anything. So what happens in the greater ethos when people say there's this bill that's being sponsored, it kind of dies because it just doesn't have the support to get the greater committee to vote on. Yes.
Now, which state would you say is most crypto friendly? Would it also be Wyoming?
Wyoming, I think tops the ledger. Okay. But across the United States, there are several states that are progressing their crypto policies. State of Arizona, Texas, they're welcoming Bitcoin miners left and right. I think the most antithetical to the other side of the spectrum is New York.
Okay.
State of New York.
Okay. So in your mind, what do you see as the biggest challenge facing cryptocurrency in the foreseeable future?
Yes, there's a couple of things. There's a couple of bedrock issues. Let's talk with our Constitution. Let's talk about Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5 of the United States Constitution, whereby it cites clearly that only the Treasury can coin money, right?
Right.
So is crypto money? Is it an asset? There's that conundrum question again.
The ongoing debate, right?
Ongoing debate. So therefore, you have a lot of constitutionalists within our agencies, right? When you have or in our executive or our House, right? So when they say an oath to the United States Constitution. There's the issue number one, right?
Right.
Number two, where does it work within our system? How does it work with our bond system? What is that going to truncate within our financial system is the yelling question.
Right.
So there's all of these different this geometrical concerns that haven't been satisfied because we have not created sound policy.
Okay. Now, what do you say to people who are skeptical about using digital currency. How do you assuage their fears?
Great question. When I talk to anyone, I first, if it was Todd White, founder of the American Blockchain PAC,
Right.
fronted someone or was interfacing with someone that had some skepticism, I meet them where they are. And I begin to talk about the scope of what crypto is, why it's useful, why it's helpful in many populations around the world where there are no banks, and how it can speed up the time frame of money, and how efficient it creates our system, and it takes out. Well, that's. I mean, I don't want to mix blockchain and crypto, but it has an intrinsic value that can be used in a different methods. Let me give you one example. Your viewers and yourself would like to know. There is a candidate who led the Pentagon in the supply chain during the I guess I want to say this right, during COVID-19, and the United States desperately needed raw materials to do many things, and it was a race to obtain raw materials, and the Pentagon was leading this charge under then President Trump. Think about this: Poland, every Russia, China, all going after different raw materials that were indigenous to that given area to create all kinds of things. So when the United States, through the Pentagon, tried to obtain these things or these raw materials, what ended up happening is other countries were more advanced in using cryptocurrencies because they wanted. So when you wanted to buy something, you don't want to have to wait for your money. And so the competition for these raw materials put us back greatly during that window of time because other countries were willing to use crypto to buy raw materials. They could get them quick. And there wasn't a wait time to be a vendor and wait a month or two. It really slowed down the process here. That's the best example I can give you of why Bitcoin or digital virtual currencies are uniquely a value set to innovation in our country.
Okay, great. Now let me ask you another, stupid question, right? So, what if someone was using, because today there are many apps where we can transfer money very, very quickly, right? There's Venmo, there's Zelle. In China, I know that Alipay is very big, right?
Yes.
So I mean, wouldn't that kind of debunk the argument that crypto would make things faster, because now these apps can instantaneously transfer money, right? So how is that different than crypto?
Great question. Let me put it in this perspective. So you're right. You have Alipay, you have
Apple Pay,
ePay,
right?
But those payment systems are indigenous to that given area, to where they are, like China, let's say.
Okay.
Certainly, we have the capability of the United States, but they may not. But these payment systems may not be applicable if you're in South America or other regions of the world. However, Bitcoin can be anywhere. You can trade, you can carry it in a cold storage wallet. You can keep it on you don't want to keep it on an exchange, but
Right.
if you're going to put it on in a short period of time and you are in a deficit in required money, you can use Bitcoin anywhere.
Okay.
By contrast.
All right. Do you think cash will ever be truly, replaced by cryptocurrency?
We do. The American Blockchain PAC believes that we're at the end of our American dollar, the way it's been used. As we know, we are the world reserve currency. We know, generally speaking, that the United States dollars is the majority of the IMF basket of currencies, which potentially could be usurped by another currency. We believe that Bitcoin, or a more efficient coin, could find itself very soon in the IMF basket of currencies. But to your question, elementally speaking, we see this inflationary period of time that we find ourselves in, and that's our dollar eroding because we've printed too many dollars, and then in fact the whole world has printed too many dollars. We have $71 trillion of debt in this world.
Right.
The United States is leading that challenge.
Oh yeah, we are.
Yes. So by virtue, will digital currencies at some point usurp the dollar? In our view, that is very likely to happen.
How quickly do you think that will happen? If you had to give an estimate as to which decade, which century it would happen in?
I've had a lot of debates with many people here in Washington, right? The academic, that are more conservative in thinking and view, to those that are the wildcat Bitcoin maximalist, which all they want to hear about is Bitcoin, right? And then everything in the middle, right? These conversations. If I were to plot each one of these answers, it would be on the second half of between 2025 and 2030.
Okay, wow. All right, so that's coming up, right? That's like in less than 10 years away.
Yes.
All right. So Todd, is there a website that people can check out if they want to find out more and learn more about the American Blockchain PAC?
Yeah, absolutely. As you just cited, they can go to the AmericanBlockchainPAC.org. You will find generally everything about the PAC, what we stand for, much of what we discussed today. You will find a database on research papers, and soon to come, in the coming week, we will be having an educational database where people can get certified, not only in blockchain, but crypto. And also you'll find who we are, whereby we, myself being the founder, we have an incredible CEO in Adele Nazarian, and we have a board that is very, very unique. Leading that board is W. Scott Sternetta, who is the co-inventor of blockchain. And some of the things that we're doing with the American Blockchain PAC, we want it to last a very long time. And it would not be unsurprising to us in that second half of the 20s, where the American Blockchain PAC morphs into a political party, a third political party.
A third political party. Wow.
That is absolutely correct. That's something that is being explored.
Okay. If that does happen, does Todd White run as the first presidential nominee of the blockchain of the American Blockchain PAC?
Not at all.
All right. Well,
it's just where the American Blockchain PAC would be a catalyst to that idea, because if you think about it, if the landscape is going to change in digital assets, and so does the culture, so does the standards. So all of the legislation, everything that we will do, the blockchain ethos will change everything. So reflective of that, one must have to change the way that we view many, many things. And if you think about our generation X, Y, and Z, they don't really, they don't lend themselves like they have in the past to the Republican or Democratic Party. they are going to have different sets of views and stances. And the platform of the American Blockchain PAC may be that catalyst. In closing,
Mr. Todd White, founder of the American Blockchain PAC. If you want to learn more about this organization, go to americanblockchainpac.org. Thank you, Mr. White, for joining us today. We're very fascinated in this very, very new field, right? And we wish you the best of luck in your PAC and in raising that $300 million, right?
Yes. Yes.
And we'll be catching up with you very soon. Thank you for coming on our show, Todd.
Ron, had a lot of fun with you, and trustfully your viewers as well.
Thank you.
And listeners.
Bitter.